It's football and other F words. My name is Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at FWordsPod. He's Mike Herndon. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Herndon NFL. What a day. Football and other F words. It's never dull on a Wednesday, apparently. Apparently, that's when everybody's going to get called out on Twitter and maybe not everybody, but apparently this is D-Day for a lot of people. We'll get to that later because we're going to do it this week at Titans Twitter. We are brought to you by, because I don't want to forget, like I did last week, Bluegrass Beverages. Hold on.
There you go.
Bluegrass Beverages. As I am drinking a Yazoo Hell's Lager, the little afternoon beer. It's 1 o'clock. I feel like that's still acceptable for one beer. I don't have anything to do for the rest of the day. But Bluegrass Beverages saved me yesterday, Mike, because Expedia, Delta, and my banks kept me on the phone from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. trying to track down a refund that Expedia/Delta owed me. And it turns out that I used flight vouchers and I used a credit card to buy our latest plane tickets that we were going to go to Seattle. And then Delta decided, hey, we're gonna change all 4 of your flights.
Oh my God!
Because there's one stop, departing and arriving. We're gonna change all 4 so you can get a free refund. Okay, that makes sense. I'll take the free refund. We'll reschedule because the times were just awful. Yeah. Okay. Because I used a flight voucher, and that flight voucher was for someone's wedding during COVID that got canceled, not mine, but someone else's in Denver. They refunded to the original payment. The original payment to the debit card in 2020 that I used.
My God!
It took from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. to figure that out. Because they kept telling me it got refunded, but I don't have that card anymore. So that's been a whole fiasco. And the reason I bring that up is because Bluegrass Beverages saved me, because I had liquor for Bluegrass Beverages. And man, did I need it yesterday at 2:30 p.m.
It sounds like it. I mean, that is horrific. Dealing with any situation like that is just miserable, but the airlines always seem to take it to a really special level.
I mean, I still got I got to wait 6 days to see if they're actually going to resolve it like they said they will. So we'll see about that. But that took up my whole day because you can't leave, right? Like, you have to be on the phone. You have to get this done. And then I had 2 chats pulled up. I contacted Delta and Expedia at the same time. But I knew they were going to tell me, well, you got to talk to Expedia. Well, you got to talk to Delta. It was a horrendous day. And on top of that, I had real estate clients I needed to deal with and all this stuff. So it was just yesterday needed that liquor. But today, I don't need that liquor. I'm in a great mood today, regardless of what else is happening on Titans Twitter. But football's back, sort of, baby. And it's OTA times. And what is your story today? Did your story come out? Did I miss it?
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. I was late getting it submitted this week because just chaos within both my work and with Dominic. So
I'll say this: D-Good
is coming.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it has been submitted to PK, so it should be up shortly. I'm sure he's got to read through it. And
D-Good asks, has Mike been a Debbie Downer yet today? And yes, he has. He likened the hype around Tyjae Spears to that of Dexter McCluster. So that tells you where Mike is
what?
at.
No, I did not. I did not. What did I say? I responded to I think it was Austin who said something about I'm not getting carried away with any third down back hype. Because I've been burned before. And I said, what do you mean? Did Dexter McCluster not revolutionize the Titans offense? I was making a Dexter McCluster joke. Nothing to do with Tyjae.
Oh, no, that's a Tyjae Spears cutting down. And don't expect anything from Tyjae Spears. He is just Dexter McCluster.
No, that is such a huge leap from what I said.
But anyway, what's your article about today?
It is about, and we mentioned it on the podcast a few weeks ago, and then the Earhart-Perkins language of offense. And when I mentioned it on the show, I think it was 2 weeks ago, whenever Tannehill had his presser.
Week, right?
No, it
was last week because we didn't get to talk about the presser when it initially came out, so we had to do the presser pod a week later.
I thought it was 2 weeks ago because it was when Tannehill. It was May 3rd when Tannehill actually.
We had to do a week later from
Okay,
that.
maybe so then. Well, it was on the pod that we talked about it, but when we talked about it then, I was like, maybe that they're going to move. Now I'm 100% sure.
Yeah, they even mentioned that yesterday.
What Chika Okonkwo said yesterday was basically, saying
he's a blabbermouth.
we're gonna be able to call plays with one word, like one word concepts, and I'm like, oh, so Earhart Perkins,
Yeah,
because that's exactly what that is. So I wrote about what that is, what that means, what the differences are, and some of the potential advantages that it can provide for the Titans offense. So I actually think it's a really interesting piece because it's something that probably most football fans, or at least casual football fans, are not closely tracking.
heck, I'm not even a casual, and I had no clue when you said Earnhardt Perkins. I was like, well, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy. Oh shit, I should know his Twitter name off the top of my handle or my mind because we interact all the time. Shit, I can't remember. But he sent you an article or sent us an article that we tagged in, I think from Baltimore Beatdown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So there was a lot of good info in that. Chris Brown has a really good Grantland piece about it from the
Just
Patriots
5,000
days.
words if it's on Grantland. It's a minimum 5,000 word article.
Exactly. So I loved it. But yeah, I wrote about kind of I borrowed some of the information from a couple of those articles and kind of explained what this is, what it means for the Titans offense, and what they're going to be able to do with it, what the real differences could be. Because it does sound like it's going to be a big offensive change.
It does.
And it's worth noting, Tim Kelly is an Earhart Perkins guy going back to Bill O'Brien via Bill Belichick. Vrabel is an Earhart Perkins guy, obviously played with Belichick, but then also coached under O'Brien. Urban Meyer is an Earhart Perkins guy. Ryan Day, who Vrabel initially tried to hire, is an Earhart Perkins guy. So I kind of think this might have been the language he wanted to use all along, and he ended up kind of getting stuck with Matt LaFleur, and then it worked in 2019 and 2020, and so they just kind of stuck with it and kept writing it, and now I think they're almost going back to what maybe Vrabel wanted all along offensively.
Okay, well, let's I want to come back to that because I got questions I want to come back to involving Earhart Perkins and Tim Kelly's comments to PK about no negative Nancy's allowed in this media. Yeah, right. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Let me write that down real quick so I remember to come back to that because it wasn't on my list. All right. Kevin Byard's not there.
Yeah.
Where are you? I mean, we have been pretty big proponents of, well, okay, so he's normally at what veteran mini camp or whatever is called veteran voluntary workouts or whatever. He's normally there. He's not there this year. Nobody's really talking about it except for us. And we said that, okay, well, let's see if he's around at OTAs. Maybe that's when it's time to panic. And then I saw yesterday. Well, I'm not trying to promote and incite riots and panicking or anything like that. And I saw yesterday he's not there. They've said he's not there. They talked about him in positive ego stroking remarks. And that's important because I'll get to something here in a minute that ties into. That's not a diss at Kevin Byard. That's just they're obviously saying glowing remarks for a reason. And he didn't show up for OTAs, even though he's obviously in the area. He lives here, but he's also at a golf charity event for whatever Mike Vrabel was doing there at the same time. Didn't show up at OTAs, and now you're like, well, if he doesn't show up at training camp, and I'm thinking, or whatever's in June, and I'm like, well, we just keep pushing off the inevitable talking point. But this is pretty big. This is a defense that needs leadership. It has a couple of new pieces. It has some relatively young pieces, and he's not there. Where? I mean, we keep pushing it off. So why do we keep giving him the benefit of the doubt, pushing it off that this thing's going to get resolved to his liking?
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to get resolved to his liking. I think he gets the benefit of the doubt personally because he's, all that he's done here and how talented he is and reliable and the leader he is and all the good stuff that Kevin Byard is. He gets the pass personally from the fan base because nobody's going to
he doesn't
crap
throw
on Byard for
interceptions; he
anything.
just gets interceptions.
Exactly. Nobody's going to crap on Byard for anything. So, and rightfully so. Like, he's earned that, right? So,
yeah, we're not really crapping on him.
No,
what we're saying here is that like this is concerning.
It is in that it speaks to there is a difference of opinion between him and the team as far as what his value is. And he apparently either wants a contract extension or something positive to be done to his contract, and Rand Carthon wanted to do something negative to his contract, according to Rand Carthon.
To me that his team must be angling for an extension or a trade.
Yeah.
Or a cut, even though they haven't explicitly asked for a cut.
I just cannot imagine the Titans actually cutting them.
But I'm with you. The team's not going to do that. I mean, but doesn't mean that he's not going to do a little, like a lot of players across the league have done, a little strong arming to get what he wants.
Yeah.
Which you should, for the most part. Most players are in a position to do that.
And I think it's one of those things too where, like, I feel like he would be here if there was not a contract issue, right? Like, I feel like this is 100% about the contract issue because, look,
it has to be.
Derrick Henry's here, Ryan Tannehill's here, Jeffrey Simmons is here, all the other big stars besides basically, Byard, Autry, and Fulton are the three.
Which we know where Fulton is at.
Yeah,
we know what he is doing, even though I do think it's a little ridiculous that he hasn't scheduled whatever he's doing, which is just yoga and Pilates and Pure Barre, which there's a couple of Heart Workses up here that you go do that here.
Yeah. It's not like Nashville does not have a Pilates studio. But yeah, Byard, it is worth saying that, like, look, there's a new defensive backs coach, like, and he is the defensive pass game coordinator. So he's going to have some say in the types of coverages and how they call things and things like that. So I think it would be advantageous for him to be here for sure. And I don't feel like, I know Vrabel said that he's missed some stuff before, and maybe he has missed a practice or two, but it's been limited. It hasn't been he's skipping all of OTAs.
Well, last year when everybody was shitting on Tannehill for not showing up at the voluntary workouts that Tannehill showed up to this year that Byard didn't at all.
Yeah,
he was there and the reason why I remember this, because he was there for a couple of days and then he left. Like, he wasn't there for the rest of the time. So that's what Vrabel's saying. He shows up and then he leaves. It gets to this thing where I kind of want to talk about tying this into. I feel like even Vrabel has made Christian Fulton's issue a different issue and puts it in its own category.
For sure.
Where collaboration is the big word. We know that Rand Carthon, this is kind of a question I'm probably going to butcher, or a topic I'm going to butcher, but I am totally stealing the question from Joe Rexrode this morning to bring it to you, and I'm going to butcher it, definitely. But he asked at the 8 a.m. segment, and I think he asked it before then, but I missed it. But I know he specifically asked PK in the 8 a.m. segment. And for once, PK gave Joe a compliment for this question, so this is a really good question. At what point are players starting to view Vrabel less as a coach and more as a manager? So we know that Rand Carthon obviously handles negotiations, obviously handles the general manager tasks. But we also kind of know that while it is a spirit of collaboration, that Mike Vrabel is kind of like, do this, do that, get me this, I need this, do that. But what do you think is his involvement in this? And what do you think players are starting to view Vrabel as? I don't think they're going to lose any respect for him, but do you think they kind of view him as a guy that is teetering in both worlds now?
I would imagine they would, because that's kind of how I view Vrabel at this point, and that he does have some say over personnel. Whether that's, they're never going to make it clear as far as like he has control of the 53 or anything like that, but he clearly has some say, and what he says carries some weight with Rand Carthon. So, I mean, I think it's a very valid question and an interesting angle. And does that affect his relationships with the players, which he's always had good relationships with his player, most of them. I mean, there are clearly some that he just does not get along with. Adoree Jackson being one. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that seem to chafe against Vrabel for whatever reason.
Well, Corey, I don't know if really Corey Davis did, but it seems like he did. It seems like Vrabel mentions or talks about a particular type of player, and then you can kind of pick out that type of player rubs him the wrong way, but you don't know if it's really vice versa. What are
well, like Fulton. I mean, Christian Fulton, he has called him out multiple times right now
guess who's
about
not there?
the injury things. And that's the thing, that out of all the absence, I mean, like Domenico Autry's like 100 years old and like didn't go to OTAs
he didn't show up last year, right? Yeah, so, he was like, he goes, I'm just a fucking old man. I don't feel like I have to do it.
Yeah, he's old. He's going to show up and be in good enough shape, and he's going to be able to manage his way through. And whatever he needs to do to get ready, I don't care. And besides, defensive line, there is some coordination with defensive line, especially the way the Titans rush as far as running games and twists and things like that. But Byard is the quarterback of the defense, right? Like, it is important that his communication is on point. So that is one of those things where, like, his impact, and Fulton too. Fulton, while he's less involved in actual, I guess, coordination of the defense, his communication and coverage, ability to communicate coverage and understand what is being communicated to him in coverage is important. More so, I think, than Autry, right? So I don't know. Fulton's the one that bothers me the most out of all these because Byard knows the defense. There's not a big change on defense like there is on offense. I think he's going to come in and be just fine. And he's always in shape. Like, you just don't have to worry about Byard. But I think it does
have to worry about Byard coming for his contract.
I think there's a contract issue there that is real. And then I think, Fulton is the one that I really have a problem with because, look, it's contract year, buddy. Like, you have not shown enough to get an extension right now. So I don't know if he's saying he wants an extension or something behind the scenes that, that's what they're upset about. But of course they're not going to extend him right now. Like, he's been hurt every season he's been here, basically. So he needs to come play 17 games and play 17 games well, and then he can get an extension or go get, a bunch of money somewhere else. But I just don't know is he putting himself in the best position to do that by not being here, not having that time spent with his new position coach, because he does have a new position coach in Chris Harris.
New guy across the way in Sean Murphy Bunting that you have to have communication, build up communication and chemistry with.
Yeah, and who may be playing inside and next to him at times. And McCreary, if McCreary's playing in the nickel, there seems to be a lot of hints that maybe McCreary is kind of billed for that nickel spot. Getting reps next to McCreary, next to Azeez Al-Shire, who's going to be, doing some coverage stuff at linebacker. There's certainly enough new pieces around Christian Fulton that it would be valuable to him to be here, I think. And I just think it's a missed opportunity.
I think it's if I was Christian Fulton's agent, I'd be like, what the fuck, man? Like, no, you got to go, because this stuff that they're doing is important, but you're pretty much, it perceives that you're running away from the grind and you're pouting down in Miami. We don't know if these people were on the premise, these other people missing, and maybe they were inside working out. But I'm a little curious as why Trevon Wesco wasn't there. And I'm a little curious as to why Monty Rice wasn't there.
Well,
Monty Rice isn't injured, right?
According to PK, Rice, Farley, Rice, Landry, Radens, Wesco, and Sam Okununo, however.
I just call him Sam OK.
Sam OK. Those guys were inside dealing with varying degrees of injury. So they are
fantastic. Present. Monty Rice is dealing with injuries.
I mean, constant. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Which, I mean, hey, you drafted a guy who lost his job in part because he got hurt his final year at Georgia. And, hey, he's been hurt pretty much every season since. So, there you go. There you go, John Robinson.
God, I'm so sick of Monty Rice. I was sick of the pick when it happened. and I'm sick of it now. And all this dude, he's got one of those Twitter fingers on. He's one of those players that name searches everything every day, every minute. Like you can't mention Monty Rice. He may show up in my room because I've said his name 3 times. But like he may show up at my front door, knocking on the window,
hey,
what's going on in there? You don't say my name. But like, my God, get to fucking practice. Unbelievable. And I don't find Monty Rice to be that talented. I mean, he's okay for a 3rd round pick when he's on the field, but he's just a guy.
He was decent last year. Nothing special, but decent.
And so you can rotate like the 5 white guys that I guess that they have at linebacker. It's like Azeez Al-Shaair and 15 of the same guys that go to frat parties. You got
Luke
Chance,
Gifford,
Luke,
Ben, Chance,
Chance,
and Jack.
Yeah, Chance, Luke, and Jack. They could just all swap in there after they do win a Flip Cup tournament. But like, it's ridiculous. I'm so sick of it. Sick of Monty Rice and all that stuff. And I don't know. They're gonna have to do something with that room if Monty Rice can't get healthy, and that I'm afraid they're gonna prioritize that room over the wide receiver room, which Tim Kelly had some interesting comments yesterday. And then of course everybody was up in arms that Chris Moore chose number 11. He's like, yeah, I knew after I said it, I immediately regret it. And he knew Titans Twitter would come after him, which says a lot about Titans Twitter, right? Like the players know that you guys are losers and care about jersey numbers way too much.
Well, he only had like 3 choices to choose between among the numbers. I think he could have picked from 5 and 1 and 11.
Well, I thought there was didn't they open up the jersey numbers? I guess I'm not up to date. And when I thought they opened up the jersey numbers, I thought they opened up the jersey numbers. So am I correct on that?
They opened it up some. So I think different. There's some of the positions.
How many 80s are gone off this team? I mean, he could have chosen 80, I guess.
Yeah, I think all the 80s are taken. I want to say, yeah, they are. They're all gone, or they're all claimed.
I mean, it's ridiculous anyway. But I mean, like, I watched the good parts of the film or whatever he said, and that's what I gotta hope to get out of it. And then Easton and PK had like the most mind-numbing argument on Twitter about this whole thing. And I guess what I want to do is bring some intelligence into the conversation, because that's what we do at Football and Other F Words. We rise above and bring intelligence whenever we can. And I wasn't going to bring this up anyway, but because of your Earnhardt Perkins stance and the article coming out, the wide receiver's role in Earnhardt Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a variation of pro style spread, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Because that's what Bill O'Brien's kind of known for. And that's what Ryan Day and Urban Meyer kind of known for. It's like it's not college spread. It's like a pro style spin on it.
Yeah, it's what I would consider like a power spread kind of.
Power spread.
But I will say this. That's like one version of it, because there is really, you can do a whole lot with it, and it mostly the distinctions come down to language more so than anything, as between the various offenses. And Earnhardt Perkins, you can certainly run different styles of it, and there are different styles of it all over the league. But I would say the most common version is what I would consider like a power spread.
So in that kind of offense, obviously, it's very quick. It's very violent, but it's violently quick, which means that the explosive first step. Do you have to have multiple wide receiver ones? Because that's what I kind of feel like everybody's wanting. And I'm not saying I am happy with this wide receiver core. Obviously, nobody should be feeling good about this wide receiver core. But as far as the offense functioning at a higher level than it did last year and the year before. And I know the year before in 2021, the Tennessee Titans had A.J. Brown and Julio Jones for like 3 games together or whatever it was. It's some like ridiculously low number. But that was another cataclysmic year for injuries. Can this offensive line in this wide receiver group that everybody's so down on be better and more productive than the last 2 years of Todd Downing this year because of the Earnhardt Perkins offense?
I think the change in the offense to me is going to reveal itself more in what they're able to do from like a tempo standpoint. Like I think they're going to be able to go faster. I think they're going to be able to do more out of no huddle. Ryan Tannehill's going to have more flexibility at the line of scrimmage. I think that kind of thing is going to be the bigger impact of the I guess the terminology change. But as far as the style of offense, I mean, if you look back at what Tim Kelly did with Houston, Deshaun Watson had his best season as a pro with Brandon Cooks. I think it was like 11 games of Will Fuller. And then like the next best receiver was Randall Cobb. So I don't know that I mean, do the Titans have a Brandon Cooks? Not really. Like Treylon Burks is a very different type of receiver, but you would hope that Treylon Burks falls into that wide receiver one role that Cooks effectively was for him in 2020, I think it was. Yeah. But it's not like you have to have, and look, and this is totally different because it's Brady and everything like that. But Brady famously took a bunch of dudes that were like, average talent-wise receivers and turned them into superstars because they were able to run this offense super effectively. I think obviously having more talent at receiver would be better. Do I think it's possible that Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips and Chris Moore and Nick Westbrook-Akine can cobble together, combined with like Chig Okonkwo, who I think is going to have a really big role.
Well, I mean,
this
Chig, Tyjae Spears, Josh Weil, and then you got Derrick Henry catching balls out of the backfield too. I mean, like all those guys are going to be involved in this passing offense in some way or another.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of guys in the offense that could be exciting. I mean, we'll see. This is one of the crazy things about the Titans. If you look at all their pass catchers, only Nick Westbrook-Akine has been here for more than 1 year. Like, out of all the pass catchers, really, that are going to be on this team and in a significant role in the offense, they're basically all brand new. So that's another reason why I think this terminology change is coming. I mean, this is the time to do it because it's not. I mean, Tannehill and Henry are the only two guys on offense with more than 1 year of starting experience in this system. So it is quite the time to make the change, but. Yeah, I think Burks, Phillips, Chig, they all have to take huge steps forward. But it's possible that they could find success in this offense. It's all going to come down to like, how does this all function together? How quickly can they learn it? Because the other thing about learning this offense is it's all concept based, whereas I mean, like the way that they learn is going to be very different than how they learned the Shanahan, like West Coast style terminology that they've had the last couple years. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that translates, because ultimately I think what the Titans are hoping for, and Vrabel talked about getting faster and all that stuff. And we know part of that is tempo, but I also think part of it is, what's one of Vrabel's favorite pet phrases: know what to do, play fast and aggressive, right? Like that's how many times have we heard him say that? Well, the knowing what to do part feeds the second and third part of that, because you don't play fast and aggressive when you don't know what to do. And I think that's maybe part of what simplifying the language of this offense is intended to do, is to make it easier for guys to go out there and play, and to not have all this terminology, all this verbiage rattling around in their brain when they're at the line of scrimmage. Am I remembering this play right? Am I going to run the right route? Or
we talked about last year tons of miscommunication issues.
There was a
between
lot,
what it seemed like between the quarterback and the wide receiver, and was the quarterback thrown to the right spot? Was the wide receiver running to the right spot? It just seemed like for the last 2 years under Todd Downing, which we have seen that it can be a coach issue in a system that, even though it's a familiar system, that if it's not being taught right and not being communicated from coach to player and then from player out in the field, that it can cause these issues. And because we saw it with the defense when they didn't have a defensive coordinator for the longest time. So it's almost like to me that not only are you shortening it is a benefit to everybody, but kind of the way that Tim Kelly teaches and the way that everybody seems to be gravitating towards wanting to learn and being very excited about this offense is a big boon for this Titans team. And I'm not saying that we're going to see 2019, 2020, offense or anything, but it's kind of like how I view the offensive line. If this offense is just like a little bit better than last year, this team can win games and make a certain amount of noise. So, like, to me, that's just kind of where I'm at. It's like, yeah, the wide receivers suck. But the problem is that everybody wants like 3 wide receiver ones. And hey, I'm with you. I would love to have that, but that's just not realistic. What you got to hope for is that Chig, Kyle Phillips, I'm not going to really say NWI, but maybe like NWI or Chris Moore give you 700 or 800 yards. Like someone on this team besides Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks needs to go for like 1,200. Someone else on this team needs to go for 700 or 800 to complement Traylon Burks. And then you have Derrick Henry in the backfield, and then you have Tyjae Spears catching passes out of the backfield and doing whatever he can do. You got Josh Wiley there. Like, it's all about, I feel like this year, this offense has been shifting towards this. Everybody's going to have to contribute at different times because we're going to keep the defense on their toes, and we're going to make them think we may be going to Traylon Burks, but Colton Dow, you better be in the right spot because Traylon Burks is seeing this defensive look. That ball's coming to you in like 3 seconds, maybe, I guess like 2 seconds, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so, and for this kind of offense that they're building, it doesn't seem like, it seems like wide receiver 2 is a luxury, or another wide receiver 1 is a luxury more than a real necessity, I guess it's not my favorite way to phrase it, but it just feels like Chig and Kyle Phillips are supposed to fill a massive void that Traylon Burke help him fill that void.
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to like, you've got to look at it as pass catchers, right? Not necessarily wide receivers, because the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver is Travis Kelce, right? Like realistically. And I'm not saying Chig is anywhere close to Travis Kelce right now, but I think he is going to be your probably either second or third leading target getter in this offense. I think it's going to be Burks. I think it's going to be Chig, and I think it's probably going to be Phillips. Honestly, I think Phillips.
Well, I was told he was wide receiver 4, Mike. So
no, I mean I think he's the most likely to emerge out of the Chris Moore NWI, kind of grouping into a guy.
And don't forget Racey McMath. He's fast. He's been running.
Racy running. But I think he's the most likely to emerge as like the third pass catcher in that top group. So I think that's how you have to look at it. And look, my biggest issue with this team, and we've harped on it the last few weeks, is all of what we're doing is projecting like all these guys have to take big step forwards, and it's possible that like they all do, but we'll see. Like that's kind of where I land on.
I feel like the terminology situation helps increase those chances, I should say. Like if this was Todd Downing and they were running maybe the offense from last year again, and it's Todd Downing again, like, yeah, I'd probably be like, at least we have that kind of idea of the unknown in front of us.
Yeah. Definitely. Like I do think there is the element of unknown with the offensive terminology and the scheme change and everything like that. And look, it is a totally different way to like even conceptualize the way that they play, because rather than like everything is in concept. So like one word describes like the outside receiver running a vertical, the inside receiver running an out. That is one word, and that is a concept that they will drill. And Tannehill can easily switch a concept by just looking to one side and yelling one word, which tells them what their new assignment is. So like there's a lot more flexibility. I think it's a system that's designed from the quarterback's perspective too. And the idea is try to make things as easy as possible on the quarterback. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it's picked up. Interesting to see how it's implemented. Yeah, it could make a big difference. It really could. And I think that's the biggest X factor in this whole thing is what happens with Tim Kelly. Is Tim Kelly an awesome play caller and an awesome, offensive coordinator? Are they going to have, some really neat concepts? Because it's not like these guys don't have talent. Like if you can find creative ways to get the ball into Chig's hands, into Burks' hands, guys that are good after the catch, even Phillips can do a little after the catch. They have some talent out there. It's just going to be, how do you make use of that talent? Is offensive line good enough to allow you to make use of that talent? All of that stuff. So I'm super excited to see how it all plays out. It's going to be an interesting season for sure on offense.
Well, let's stay with the offense because talked to Braden this morning, and we'll have more information on what he observed at OTAs, tomorrow on a football show at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. But he did someone finally clarified, because we saw that Andre Dillard in a picture was left tackle.
Yeah.
You saw a leg next to him, and I assumed, like with 95% certainty, that it was Skoronski. But we do know that we also saw Skoronski at left tackle with what was perceived as the second team on day one of OTAs.
Yeah.
So you had brought up the question, well, who's running with the ones if he's running with the twos? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure he's probably running with both of them. But we have gotten confirmation from Braden. I don't know why nobody else touched on this. This is a pretty important subject, especially when you have Lamas and Tic Tac Titans Tyler. They're kind of like, well, they're just gonna fuck around with it, like they always do. And I was thinking, God, they can't be doing that. They have to be smarter than that, right? Like, new coach, this team cannot be doing that. Sure enough, I'm always right. Like, this offseason, I have yet to be wrong this offseason. It's pretty fucking remarkable. But the normal five, the five that we predicted it would be in the positions that they are in, practiced all damn day yesterday with the ones. There were no switching out. So it wasn't like they were rotating Jamarco Jones in there at all yesterday, or shifting maybe Andre Dillard and Peter Skoronski from left tackle to left guard, respectively. It was Andre Dillard left tackle, Peter Skoronski left guard, Aaron Brewer center, Brunskill is right guard, and NPF is right tackle, and it looks to be continuing that today. Hallelujah! This team has figured out how to properly prepare an offensive line. Now, whether they're good or not is a different scenario, but at least they're letting them gel and get to know each other on that line as players on the field.
Yeah, I think it's that's the five that we all expected it to be. And that's the five that it should be, frankly. So I'm glad that they're going to that immediately, and hopefully getting those guys to gel in there. And look, if you want to get Skoronski some reps at left tackle with the twos or whatever, I think that's great, honestly, because
it's smart. That's what we always thought they would do too, because we've talked about offensive line depth. If Andre Dillard goes down, he's going to be the left tackle backup.
Yeah, your tackles are awful outside of your starting two. Maybe, if Dillard and MPF are good, then your other tackles are still just either
MPF
extremely
really. I only saw like from the top of his man tits up, but he looked really skinny in the interviews yesterday. I haven't seen like a full video or something, but I just thought he looked like he lost. He got fit, I should say.
Okay, all right, well, good. I'm hoping for the MPF breakout here. We need it. But yeah, I think until Radens comes back, at least you are definitely looking at Skoronski as probably your swing tackle backup and starting left guard. Because I think you'd rather shove like Jamarco Jones or Corey Levin or someone like that in at left guard and move Skoronski to tackle than try to put Jalen Duncan at left tackle or something like that. So, I think that's good that they're approaching it that way if that's how they're doing it.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to have saved it for Braden. I'm going to ask Braden tomorrow, but where Jalen Duncan was, where Jamarco Jones was, as far as their rotation and their position that they play. But it's just, to me, that was always been one of my bigger like beefs with this team under the Vrabel era is like they never had the offensive line settled. They always got too cute and played around with it. And maybe, just maybe, that was a Keith Carter thing.
Yeah.
Which means, by the way, that's a Mike Vrabel issue because Mike Vrabel gave him carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wanted without oversight, which you shouldn't do. There's a difference between micromanaging and just taking your foot off the gas completely and not even letting the people go crazy with whatever job they have. Like I'm out on that. But I'm just happy. I mean, like out of this OTAs, this is probably like the happiest I am. I do have one beef with this OTA, and this has now become a tired off-season trope for the Titans, but this is directly related to Jim Wyatt. Every year he says, well, I fully expect them to add so-and-so player to so-and-so position group, and for the last few years it's been wide receiver and tight ends, like changing over from every year in the mailbag, and the Titans never do. So, quit getting our hopes up, Jim Wyatt. I am sick of this offseason trip. I'm sick of him always saying, yeah, I expect them to add someone. And then, like, because I remember it was the year they were rolling with Anthony Ferguson, Jeff Swaim, and Michael Pruitt. And you and Lebowski said, but Jim Wyatt said. And I remember the room I was in I was still in the old house then. And I said, guys, this team is fully satisfied with this tight end group. And they were. And it was a disaster. But you could just tell that they were satisfied with it.
I will say he also did that during the Julio Jones offseason, and that one turned out. So
yeah, we'll see. But no, they'd already added Josh Reynolds. I feel like the wide receiver thing left at that after Josh Reynolds.
Nobody was like, oh, we're good at wide receiver because we got Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, why not? He's pretty good. Everybody's wishing he was on this team right now.
He is pretty good.
Okay, so we talked about Christian Fulton. We talked about
Molden.
The offense. Yeah, I
Molden
mean, like
safety.
I mean, yeah, Molden's at safety. Like, is that surprise to anybody? Because he's played safety on the field for the Titans before in certain game situations. And no, there's no Kevin Byard, so wouldn't you use that opportunity with no Kevin Byard to give him reps with Amani Hooker?
Has Molden played safety before? I didn't think he had.
Yeah, he's played. In fact, I believe Tic Tac Titans actually put out a few clips of Molden at safety.
Okay. Well, I don't follow that account, so. But I mean, Molden has been. I think it is significant though because they get zero safety depth, like none. Like Tyreek Jones, the UDFA out of Boise State, was the guy that I kind of had penciled in as the number 3 safety on my 53 when I was going through it. So moving Molden, especially if they're going to use either Bunting or McCreary at slot corner, which is what I think they're going to do. I think moving Molden into that kind of third safety role where he can play, he could probably play, 30 to 40% of snaps because they run a lot of sub packages with 3 safeties traditionally here. So I think Molden being in that role makes a ton of sense. Gives them some flexibility. Someone asked me yesterday, like, is he the Byard replacement? I do not jump to that yet. Like, that is possibly, like, maybe he is in the future.
I don't know if he's a replacement as like a, the fill in, like when, someone on tour for a music band goes in sick, they pull in some other band members, guy to play the drums or whatever, something like that.
Like I could see his long-term position being safety. Yeah. I just don't know that that they're putting him there because they're getting rid of Byard, right? Like
I don't think
connecting those dots. I think it's the fact that they don't have a third safety currently and they need one.
We'll talk about Titans Twitter real quick, but this is before we get too far from Kevin Byard and safeties and stuff like that and getting rid of them. Some guy said trade Kevin Byard for a kicker and some picks. That was
oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, use the money to sign a kicker. God, please. Well, apparently the kickers have only missed 2 kicks all off season or whatever, right?
Yeah, I'll
PK's
believe
boy,
it
Craig
in the
Ackerman.
preseason. Okay, like we hear this all the time about these kickers. Oh well, they only missed 2 this week, and then we're in July and they're like flinging them out into the crowd.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I am anti-signing a veteran kicker. I think it's a waste of money. You let one of these young kids win the job and try it and see what you got. I mean,
Brandon McManus, man, I am with D Good here. Brandon McManus came in clutch for me in fantasy football over the years. Like him and Daniel Carlson from the Raiders, like my go-to kickers. I could not believe they let him hit the road. He was like 5 for 6 from 50 to 59, and he hit a couple of 60-yarders last year. I don't get it. I thought that was weird.
I'm not saying like McManus would be a bad idea. I just don't think they should spend any money on kicker. I just don't think they should. I think you need to get a young kicker that you can just set there and let him kick for however long.
Really, the NFLPA should figure out a way with the teams to make signing kickers tax deductible, because that's really charity, right? Like, I mean, they're not a real football player, so it's just it's for charity. You're just paying someone for charity,
except for Justin Tucker.
Yeah, except for Justin Tucker. But get tax write-off, and then there you go. That solves everybody's problems.
Exactly. But yeah.
What about Malik Willis? Are we even surprised that he's just resigned to the fact that he's just not going to be anything? Like, I feel like he's accepted that. Like, I feel like his words lend themselves to being that he's just like, I'm just happy to be here. Just happy to be out in the sun, throwing ball with the boys. And if I get QB, I'm going to approach it the same I did every year. Sounds just like Marcus, by the way. I was approaching like I did last year. Hopefully I get QB too. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not reading that much into Willis's statements. Like, that's who he is personality wise. Like, he's just, I took it as him saying, I'm not going to change how I work. Like, I'm going to come in and try to get better
if it doesn't work the first
whatever.
time, I would never, instead of turning the power off, change on the light, let me get electrocuted 15 fucking times before I go turn the power off to the light. Like, come on. This is why Marcus didn't pan out, because he's like, well, I just don't do anything right. I just really love eating my Spam and just coming in, not working on my footwork at all.
I will say that I prefer the Levis aggressive type A personality type to the Willis Mariota, like, whatever happens, he
makes his bed though.
Super chill personality type as for my quarterback, right? Like, yeah. I would prefer a Levis version, but I don't know. Like, Willis, I'm open-minded to Willis being better this year. Like, I think he should be better. Hopefully he'll be better. I know he works hard. I think he puts in the work. And we'll see. Like, we'll see how he looks. The best thing that could possibly happen for the Titans, frankly, is that Willis kicks ass in preseason, Levis kicks ass in preseason, and somebody's like, hey, you want to trade one of those guys for like a good draft pick? That would be the ideal situation, is you actually are able to move one of those guys, whoever you don't want to be the long-term starter. Or you end up with a kick-ass backup for 2 years on a rookie contract, for the 2024 and 2025 seasons, whenever Levis is a starter or Willis is a starter, even. Who cares? They need one of those guys to emerge as their starter, and it would be great if they both emerge to the point where, like, you either have a really good backup or you have a trade bait kind of guy that you could send off for a pick. Like, that would be great. I'm rooting for Willis to be awesome. I hope he is. Don't have a ton of hope for it, but we will see.
I don't feel like he has any hope for it.
I think it's just his personality.
Yeah, but like the personality matters when you're a quarterback.
I agree.
Like, to me, it's just like when you have to know that everybody got rubbed the wrong way when he said last year, well, better luck next time. All shucks. Whatever he said, I'm just blessed or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's just more of the same. And it's just like, I guess for me, it's like all the people that are so still defending him. Like, he got thrown to the wolves last year. there is this thing. You watch a guy play, right? So you watch him play and he's terrible. Then you see a guy come off the streets, pick up the offense in 5 days. He goes out and he plays and he knows more about the playbook than this guy does. And this guy just doesn't seem like he has any fight in him. And it dates back to kind of like everything we've seen and heard from him. Just neon flashing lights is like, if this guy's a great backup, he's going to be a great backup. But that is like the ceiling. There is nothing that you can point to or cling to when talking about Malik Willis that says that's the guy of the future. That guy can leave because there was people that thought that he could leave here and pop off over at another team. And I do not see that anywhere.
Yeah, I don't either. Not based on what we saw last year. Now, I mean, look, if he develops and he shows up as a different player this year, and look, I mean, you're not going to know it from OTAs. You're really probably not even going to know it from training camp. Preseason will give you a little bit of a glimpse, but I mean, until he's actually in a real game and doing real quarterback play against a real defense, that you won't really know for sure how far ahead he is. And look, the Titans are hoping that does not happen at any point, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the Titans will tell you kind of how that all shakes out by how quickly they elevate Levis up to quarterback 2, which, I would imagine we'll go into training camp. We might even go into preseason games with Willis over Levis, and then we'll see what, when that switch happens or if it happens. But I think his attitude is a problem for quarterback, at least the way I would think a Mike Vrabel team would want to be led. Like, you got to remember, like, Mike Vrabel's quarterback was Tom Brady, and there could not be a more distinct personality type to Malik Willis than Tom Brady. Like, Levis is far more in the Brady mold of like a little bit of an asshole, going to tell you how it is, like very direct, not afraid to speak up and kind of go for what he wants. Whereas I do very much see Willis as Mariota and very nice guy. Like, he's a great dude as far as like, I feel like, he'd be a great guy to hang out with. He seems super positive. He's like, it seems like a really great guy. I just don't know that personality type fits for an NFL locker room.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he has that fight to him to want to win this quarterback battle. It's just, that's all we have to go off of are his words, his actions, his demeanor. Just kind of seems like what it is. And listen, if you don't love football, you don't love football. That's perfectly okay. But you're not going to be successful if you don't love football, and you won't be on this Tennessee Titans team for much longer if you don't love football, because that's what they've said they love.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's about it. But we have to talk about, and I've just come across an horrendous that I'm not going to bring up, another horrendous thread that is a little out of bounds, but that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about right now, which is for 7 days later, after crying in his car about PK, calling him dumber than Stillman, which is so bad that you would be considered that. It goes into now. Here's my thing with this Sal from Jersey. If he's a real person, I'm not convinced. He could be AI. He could be a something sent to destroy this Titans fan base from like the future or something, like a robot. Because there is no way this guy could be real. But at the end of the day, I don't understand why people continue to follow him, like him, and side with him. Because today, not 7 days later, after making himself look like an asshole against PK, because he does, because he's talking like fans in you can only be good media if you are liked by fans, and you are liked and you like the team that you root for, which is just utterly fucking ridiculous. And if you were any kind of fan that has followed PK since back 2004, when he's writing for the entire AFC South, he has told you now for almost 20 years At least I have seen it for almost 20 years that he is not a fan of this team, and he hates and thinks that people cannot be fans and be objective about covering this team, which I do not agree with, but whatever. That's beside the point. He has told you that. And he's been doing this for 20 years. Today, he puts out this silly tweet, and the way that he puts out tweets, he uses like 15 sets of ellipses and just like ... and like now he's a film guru, because I remember last year, I watched all the film of Malik Willis, not one flaw. All his flaws are bullshit. Yeah. Okay, there. Good job there watching that film. And now he's trying to break down mechanics of Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, and Will Levis, which doesn't even show the full set of throws and motions required that go into mechanics. And he gets called out by quarterback coach Quincy Avery and continues to say that I just respectfully disagree. I mean, like, I think his speed is all this and that. I don't understand why this guy is followed by anybody. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that he is a passionate fan. He gets behind, whoever the player is. But, I mean, the speed at which he switched from Willis to Levis is like the next savior. Look, I mean, support your guys. Like, I'm all for that, whatever. But let's not act like we're objectively breaking things down also if we're going to do that. Like, you've got to kind of pick a lane there. And going toe-to-toe with Quincy Avery about quarterback play is just a bad idea for almost anybody short of like an NFL quarterbacks coach. So I would say, yeah, I mean, you just gotta know, what your limitations are, man. Like, I mean, I have limitations. I don't know everything. And if someone comes at me who I know knows a lot more about the subject matter, I'm going to take whatever they say and say, okay, maybe you're right then. Like, there's no harm in doing that. Like, you don't have to be so proud that you just double down on bad opinions when they're pointed out by somebody who knows and coaches and is paid to coach by, top prospects.
I guess my thing is, like, if stay in your lane, I guess. Like, for me, there's a lot of accounts that are trying to do and unsuccessfully do what you have done, what I would say Justin Graver has done, Justin Mello, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't try, right? Like, you should try, but at some point you have to recognize where your niche in the fan base among, if you're going to be I like to call them fanalist. If you're going to be a fanalist, because that's what I consider myself. I consider myself fanalist. I think some people consider me media, but I have a hard time viewing me like that. But yeah. I think that if you have to find your lane and stick to it. And I think that, passionate fan is a perfectly acceptable Twitter persona. But that needs to be your lane, because let me tell you, arguing with Quincy Avery, arguing with PK, doing all this stuff may get your little saga. I call them sagas, MAGA, but Sal with an S, saga. Your saga guys, fans, it may get them all happy, but you kind of become among the, I wouldn't really call us respectable, but it's kind of just a joke. And like, I have them muted. I have quite a few people muted that probably don't even know I have them muted. So I only see tweets when they get sent to me. But like, I don't know. It's just it's something about Titans Twitter lately that like I said, I've been off of it for a while. It just gets kind of worse and worse. I mean, you got some people that are just coming in your replies constantly and spewing some of the most inane shit in your replies. I'm just like, I don't even really want to post. At this point, I can only probably see like 15 people that follow me on Twitter because I've muted so many fucking people because I don't want to, then you got the people that think that like, well, I got to use all these big words and, do all these really long, messages and replies and follow and all this stuff. It's just one of those things. I think you think you've done it right because someone's asking, why someone's asked, why doesn't Mike follow Tic Tac Titans? And listen, you just kind of got fed up with an argument and you were just like, I'm done. This guy's it. I follow Tic Tac. I mean, like, you know, but
I don't have anything against the guy. I just found that trying to have a discussion with him on Twitter is the most infuriating thing in the entire world, because he will talk down to you and treat you like you don't know shit if you disagree with him. And I just can't stand people like that. Anytime someone disagrees with me, I may argue back and try to make my point, but I'm never going to try to belittle somebody, especially somebody that like I know puts in the work, right? Like, you know, there's certain people that, you know, puts in the work and watches film and like understands things like that. So if you can't be like, talk to me respectfully about something, I'm just going to block you. And I don't mute at all. I just block. So if you can't be respectful, or if you come in my mentions acting like an asshole, calling me names, shit like that, you're just going to get blocked, because I got no patience for it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to interact with people that act like that. So bye, see you never. Like, don't give a fuck. So that's kind of how I treat it. And it has honestly made my life very enjoyable on Twitter, because if I don't want to see your shit, I'm not going to see it. So that's how I treat it.
There was someone the other day that said something, and I can't remember the account. And he's obviously one of those accounts that's a startup trying to make a name for themselves. I think it's like Titans Takes or Titans Opinions. And listen, if I mentioned either of those and it's not you guys, I'm sorry for mentioning those. I know those are names of accounts out there. But and he said something about Tim Kelly he loves running. He's gonna be excited to run 22 and blah blah blah, and he loves it. And I just pointed out he's ran like 22 personnel at like 1%. And this guy argued with me and all this stuff. And I said, dude, I mean, I'm not saying that he can't change or he may not want to change, but you're saying that he's already loved it and loves using it and he hasn't. He goes, well, I meant this. And he called me, you know, he got pretty profane with it, not the usual fuck shit and all that kind of stuff. You know, the usual venture into a line too far for me.
Yeah.
And I could take a lot and do all that stuff. So I just went ahead and blocked them. Like,
yeah,
I get to a certain point. There's going to be probably a couple people that I'm going to be blocking, you know, as it goes on. And I just, you know, I'm trying to clean up Titans Twitter. I'm trying to clean up my mental health as well as clean up my physical health, because I'm going to start getting in shape a little bit, take a little bit better care of myself. And I think that those things, you're boxing. I'm going to do this Hot Works thing that's down the road from our house, and do like you row or you bike or you do all these workouts in like a sauna. So you're just fucking sweating all the toxins. And I have a lot of toxins in my body.
No, that may work.
so, you know, I feel like though, to get your stress level down, you have to. No, I did not block the guy that called us fat and flabby American men, because I mean, like, he was right. But I had to. I feel like cleaning up, and it's kind of like a little PSA for everybody. I think it's good that we start ignoring some of these accounts, and what I mean by that is, you know, not following, muting, blocking, that kind of stuff, and start cleaning up Titans Twitter, but cleaning up for your mental health, because there is nothing worse than opening up Twitter and seeing something that makes you mad right off from the get-go when you wake up. So I'm just kind of like, I'm good to go on that. I'm not going to, you know, I may call people out, because they listen, if I'm going to speak on someone, if I can remember their handle, I'm going to remember their handle. And part of the show is a little bit of, you know, poking fun at Titans Twitter. But like,
we enjoy it. We
enjoy it. It's fun. And look, you know, I've said it before. I said it again. I don't care if we root for the same team. We don't have to be friends. I don't have to hang out with you. And, you know, I always get you invite me on your podcast or come to our tailgate. We'll just hash it out. No, I just don't want to. You're not going to say anything that's going to change my mind. And I'm probably going to say something that's going to get me punched. And like, look, I could take a punch, but, you know, I just don't want to get punched. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Don't blame you.
Oh, man. Oh, this Titans Twitter. And like, you know, I block people for their personal opinions too. But again, I don't have to. Like, freedom of speech, you can scream at it all you want. I just don't want to have to read about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to expose myself to your negativity anymore.
Exactly.
Evan, I do plan to do a pod without with Tyler, without Mike, but it will probably be like maybe a stack in the inbox thing. But I do try to plan on doing that. My schedule has gotten all out of whack this year. But I'm going to try to do that in the summer. Mike, that seems like a really weird way to end the episode.
It does, but we've ended it weirder before.
We have ended it weirder before. Mike has an article coming out today, hopefully, maybe later this evening, talking about the Earnhardt-Perkins offense. It's going to be a great read, an informative read, even though he has no clue what the fuck he's talking about, according to other Titans Twitter accounts.
That's right.
Over at stackingtheinbox.com, because my schedule's been so hectic, the in-depth schedule outlook is just dragging. I just cannot get it done. But today, out on Wednesday with Trajan Watkins, he talks about Kevin Byard and what the worry factor is. Didn't have an article on Tuesday because of the whole Expedia thing. Monday, I showed you how I got to the Titans to 5-4 heading into week 11. Stoney got drunk off some wine last night, some Merlot, if I'm not mistaken, and finished off a whole bottle of Merlot, but I'm assuming by himself, and did an undrafted free agent film review of John Ojukwu from the Boise State tackle. Talked about him. And then Friday's got Josh Wiley. So, got a lot going on at Stacking the Inbox. $4 a month for me and Trey stuff, $5 a month for Stoney stuff, plus all of our stuff. StackingTheInbox.com. Always got something going. One question real quick from Donnie D. What gave Mike the idea that they're using that particular system? Never heard his reason. So go ahead.
We touched on it at the very beginning of the pod, and it'll also be in my article on paulkarski.com. But the reason is that basically what the words that Ryan Tannehill used, and that he said they were making huge changes to terminology and concepts, which concepts was one of the kind of clue words from that. But then yesterday, when Chig talked and mentioned, one word play calls and things like that, that is very much an Earnhardt-Perkins thing. So that is 100% what they're doing. I'm convinced. So it's, but yeah, you can check it out in the article. It kind of explains what some of that stuff is, and how language is used in both the West Coast offense, which the Titans are coming from, to the Earnhardt-Perkins offense, which is what they are seemingly going to. So highly encourage you to go check that out.
All right, that will do it for us. This has been Football and Other F Words, sponsored by Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Go there, or Sinkers if you're in East Nashville. And I meant to put this at the beginning of the episode. If you're still hanging on with us, go join the in crowd and tune into a football show tomorrow, Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, for the announcement of the contest, of what it is, what you have to do, and how you're going to win. And part of that has to be joining the in-crowd and being on their in-crowd membership list. It's free. Go do that. Sinkers Beverages, Bluegrass Beverages, do it as soon as you can. Do it at the sound as you hear this voice. Go do it. For Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL, I'm Zach Lyons of at F Words Pod on Twitter. Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.